War of the Planet of the Apes is the final movie we are looking at on our run to the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. So let's talk about it. So War for the Planet of the Apes is the final movie in the trilogy that some would say is the Caesar trilogy. Now this is the final movie that concludes the story arc of Caesar, who we've watched from a little ape to becoming the heroic ape that saves his kind from extinction. Now, War for the Planet of the Apes is the third one. Now, we've just covered Rise, we've just covered Dawn, and now we get into this one. And for me, this is one of the most underrated trilogies of all time. I don't see a lot of people put the Planet of the Apes trilogy in with the conversation of like the Lord of the Rings, of the original Star Wars. We don't hear it get mentioned along those great trilogies. But I think, and I believe, that this Planet of the Apes trilogy definitely deserves to be mentioned in there. While I don't think War of the Planet of the Apes is as good as Dawn, and maybe not quite as good as Rise, I still think this is a very solid entry into this trilogy. So when you look at the Dark Knight trilogy, you have Batman Begins, which I think is phenomenal. And then you have The Dark Knight, which is one of the best comic book movies out there. Then you have The Dark Knight Rises, which a lot of people say it's not as good as the first two, but it's still a really good film. And that's what I feel like with War for the Planet of the Apes. Now, if I was to give him a number, obviously I think Dawn is like a 9 out of 10, going close to that 10 out of 10. I think that's just a phenomenal sequel. And then you have Rise, which I think is another solid 8 to 9 out of 10. And then you got War, which I think is another solid 7 to 8 out of 10. This movie is a great conclusion to the Caesar character. Now, Caesar, as we've been progressing, we've seen him and how loyal he is to his beliefs and his motive towards humans, and how he's seen the best of them. He's also seen the worst of them, but he has decided that, we can coexist, we can create peace. And that's what Dawn was all about. It was about him trying to make peace with the humans and live in harmony. Now, War for the Planet of the Apes takes directly after Dawn, where the military are coming to get them after the distressed call that was made in Dawn. So now we have this beautifully opened sequence of the humans coming to invade where Caesar and his group are. And it's a bloodbath. It really is. This is all about war. That's literally what this movie is about. It's about the conflict that is going on. And then obviously when you get introduced to the Colonel in this movie, who is played by Woody Harrelson, who is phenomenal in this movie, you start to understand that it's not everything that is supposed to be. And what I mean by that is, the Colonel himself has his own conflicts that's going on. And it's not just the apes he's fighting. He's also fighting other humans. That's the big twist in this movie, is when Caesar and everyone is captured and taken to the compound, to basically a concentration camp. This is where we discover that it's not the apes that he's fully concerned with. It's the other humans. And this is what makes the Colonel such a interesting villain of this movie, is because of the way that he works and the way that he describes how he feels like history is everything, and that the whole human history is led to this moment. And because of the virus that has come out, it is now making people become mute. Almost reverting them back to the primitive state. That is what this movie is going for, is this virus has now adapted from just straight up killing the people to basically sending us back to the Stone Age and beyond. Back to the caveman times where we don't speak fluent English anymore, or fluent Spanish, fluent whatever language. We lose all that ability to do that, or the cognitive function that makes us who we are as human beings. We lose that. So his whole goal is to erase that, to stop that, to try and save humanity. So when you see it from his point of view, you understand the motivation of why he's doing certain things, why he's making these moves. But then you got to relay it back to Caesar. And what I love is what Matt Reeves and that do in this movie with the Caesar character. The shadow of Koba is hanging heavy on him. And There are so many references and things in this movie where there are scenes related to the thinking of Koba and how he couldn't let go of his hatred towards human because of his past experience. And what I love is how they tangle that in to Caesar's character arc in this movie after the Colonel does murder his son and his wife. This is now prompting Caesar to forget everything that he knew before. Everything that he was like about creating peace with the humans. You know, he tried it in Dawn. He got burned. And then Koba did that, and now it's become a war. In this movie, in the opening sequence, he lets the humans go and tells him, go tell your colonel that I just want to live in peace. We can live in peace. Give us the woods. You can have everything else. We can live in we can coexist together. Of course, they come back, and this is where they kill his son and his wife. And now it's almost blinded Caesar from what his mission was, to try and create a peaceful environment to live in, to coexist with humans. He is now fixated on revenge. He wants to kill the colonel at all costs because he feels like he now has a debt that needs to be paid because of the death of his family. So now we see that Caesar is becoming more like Koba than he intended to be. And that's when you see in certain sequences, Koba is almost talking to him from the dead and telling him like, Abe, don't kill Abe. Because he does kill an ape in this movie. He kills Winter, who we meet in here, who's so scared that he's willing to betray the apes in order to try and survive. And then you get the whole concentration camp stuff. And when Caesar goes in there, this is where Caesar starts to regain what is the purpose of his mission? What is his life's goal? And that's to keep the apes safe, to live in an environment where they can, flourish. That is his ultimate goal. It's not to kill the colonel. And as they're trying to figure out a plan, this is where we get introduced to a new ape known as Bad Ape. And look, Bad Ape is hilarious in this movie. I really enjoyed him. We also get introduced to a girl, Nova, who can't speak. And this is where we see Maurice become almost like a parent towards her and, take her under her wing. And then obviously Rocket in here, he's great as well. And he has his story. And it's almost like we get the apes from Rise who are in a group and they go on a mission here to try and save everyone from the concentration camp. That's what their ultimate goal is. And the confrontation between the Colonel and Caesar, the conversations that they have is just so brilliant, because you have the Colonel who tells him the story about his son and how he had to kill his son, and it purified his mind to his mission, to his purpose. It gave him a clear vision of what he needed to do. And then when he tells Caesar, well, I mean, it's an accident. It's an act of war. I killed your kid and your wife because of war. There was no personal feelings towards it, so don't take it personally, but it's what I had to do. And then you see Caesar, it's almost like it's reversed in a way where Caesar is more human than the Colonel because he acts out of emotion in that moment. He's filled with rage. He's filled with revenge. That's what he wants, vengeance. That's all he's after. And a lot of human traits start to come out in the apes as you go through the trilogy, and war really showcases you how much alike Caesar has become to the humans and how his emotions start to take over his rational thinking. Because in that moment, you wouldn't attend to, try and kill the guy right there, but he's acting out of pure emotion because of what is said. So I love all the stuff that they're doing with Caesar, and then obviously the ending. The ending is just brilliant. It's poetic. It's perfect for the Caesar character. He's able to create this environment. They find this environment. He creates a paradise for them to live in. The humans get wiped out by this insane avalanche, which is a insane sequence when they're running through and you just see the snow coming down. It just wipes out everyone. But now they're there and he's watching the sunset. He's looking at it. He's looking at this lake. He's looking at all his apes, his group, his only son Cornelius, who's left. He's looking there. Maurice is sitting there, and they're like, this is just this beautiful moment where you finally see Caesar so tired of fighting, struggling, getting them to the promised land. Now that he's there, he can rest. It's such a poetic finish to the character of Caesar, and it just makes Caesar one of these characters who is just fantastic. One of the best characters out there in all of film and TV. He is so good. And when you see him in the concentration camps, you know, he's having the struggle between I'm becoming more like Koba, and he even says that to Rocket, like, I am like Koba. I can't get past. I can't get past this hatred I have for the Colonel. I have to go up there. So when he does go up there after the other humans are attacking, this is where we see the Colonel has actually got the virus and he can't speak anymore. And instead of killing him, Caesar shows him mercy and goes, no, you know what? You've got this virus. You can't talk. You're primitive now. I'm going to let you go like that. So it's this beautiful moment. And throughout that sequence, while he's in the concentration camp, you see Caesar, everyone starts to rally behind him, and he really becomes a leader in this movie where he's like, they need food and water. You have to give him food and water. And he goes to plead for that. So it's brilliant. And then you have this other ape known as Donkey in here, who is on the human side, who followed Koba, but is now helping the humans out. And he's like, oh, the Colonel's going to give me what I want. He's going to keep me alive. But then he has this arc where he doesn't care. He's out for himself. But then there's that moment where Caesar has been hit by an arrow as he's about to throw a grenade onto this huge fuel tank to blow up the humans and everything like that so that the apes can escape because they're getting shot at. And while the guy who he let go freely in the opening sequence is the one having an arrow at him about to finish him off, Donkey redeems himself here, shoots the grenade launcher, blows up the guy that's about to kill Caesar. Obviously, the guy behind him who he's helping turns around and shoots Donkey in the head. But it's this beautiful moment where he gets redeemed now because of that. Caesar blows up the whole place. Brilliant. The action in this movie is phenomenal. I really love it, especially the final half an hour is so good with the action and just the stakes and everything that's going on. So for me, the music is something that really elevates this movie as well. Like that tonal score that just adds that emotional weight to it, because this is an emotional movie because they're coming to the conclusion of this story of Caesar, and everything about it was just fantastic. I think War for the Planet of the Apes is an underrated film. I don't think it's the best of the trilogy, but I definitely think it's worthy to be in the trilogy, and it's a good conclusion to the Caesar story. Like I said, that ending with Caesar looking at the sunset is just perfect. I wouldn't want it any other way. And I think this is one of the most underrated trilogies of all time, and I don't think it's talked about enough. So it's going to be interesting to see where we go with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes now, because that takes, I think, 200 to 300 years afterwards or something like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how they tie everything back to the trilogy and how they move forward now. So, but look, I've enjoyed covering these Planet of the Apes movies. I think they're great, and I cannot wait for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes next week. So let me know what you guys think of War of the Planet of the Apes. Let me know what you think of the whole Planet of the Apes trilogy. Did you guys enjoy it? Smash it down in the comment section below. Smash that like button, click subscribe, and I'll see you guys next video. Until then, stay safe and peace out.